But Joseph mentioned in his earlier remarks Representative Carla Cunningham out of District 106 in Mecklenburg County. She's one of the 5 Democratic legislators that voted to override Governor Stein's vetoes a few weeks ago. Y'all saw the statement that we put out at Dems, and I made a promise to you at the time that I would do everything in my power to get better representation in our deep blue gerrymandered districts. What they do with gerrymandering is pack all of the Democrats together in one place so that we end up with 70 and 80% Democratic districts. And we know we're not going to win a majority with these rigged maps, and the best we can do is claw our way to not being in a super minority. And y'all, as grassroots volunteers at Dems, drove all over the county looking for a fight to try to elect our state legislators that are in those gerrymandered districts. And we did elect Senator Terrence Everett by 120 votes, and we did elect Senator Lisa Grafstein. And in 2026, we're going to claw our way back to winning House District 35 up north and House District 37 down south. But I want to give you an easier pitch, and I have a prop if this could be brought up. Thank y'all so much for your support. Thank you for all that you do. I have an announcement, and I have a guest that I want to introduce to you. And my announcement is a new initiative that we are launching at Dems. That is the Face Accountability for Override Fund, better known as the FAFO Fund. And as you can see, there's a causal correlation going on here. With the more they vote to override, the more they're going to face accountability. Here's what this fund is. We are splitting all of the money that comes in through this fund 50-50. 50% is going to elect Yvonne Hopkins in House District 35 and our Democratic nominee in House District 37. And the other half is going to find better representation in our blue districts for the folks who voted to override Governor Stein's vetoes. And I was especially upset about Representative Cunningham because of her remarks on the floor. And she stood, and what she said, she was voting for a bill that requires our local sheriff's departments to cooperate with ICE. By the way, we got problems, right? Republicans like to talk about crime. We got some crime problems. I trust the sheriffs that we democratically elect to prioritize where we should be putting our focus. When she was voting to override that bill, she said something that has stuck with me, and I think about it every week. She said, we can't just welcome anybody into this country, and I quote, because all cultures are not equal. And what she's saying is that there's something in the blood of some people that makes them less suited to be citizens here or to come here. That's not just wrong, it's not just racist, it is un-American. And so today, I want you to give a big Wake County welcome to somebody who's far from home, who's running in the Democratic primary in House District 106 against Carla Cunningham. Please come join me on stage, Reverend Dr. Rodney Sadler. This is a close friend of our North Wake Regional Vice Chair, Jim Duffett, and he wrote some remarks that I want to read to you about Rodney. I am honored to... Jim is out of the country. He wrote this. He was on a boat when he wrote this. So this is how important this is to Jim. I'm honored to introduce my friend and brother in the fight to save our democracy and ensure justice for every human being. I regret I can't join you in person at the reunion to introduce my dear friend, Reverend Dr. Rodney Sadler. When I moved to North Carolina in 2015, my good friend Joel Segal, who had just retired as congressman, for a legislative aid on health care and Medicare for all, introduced me to Rodney on my very first day here. As a lifelong activist beginning at age 14 when I walked the picket lines with my father's union in Ohio, I was eager to connect with others committed to social justice in North Carolina. Meeting Rodney that day was transformative. He became my anchor in this new community. He's been a trusted leader and part of Reverend Barber's inner circle. From the very start, we worked together fighting for Medicaid expansion under the Affordable Care Act. Rodney's moral clarity, his unwavering commitment to inclusion, and his deep belief in equal justice for all are the principles that guide his life and his leadership. When many of us watched the shameful video of the current representative of North Carolina's 106th House District, He was kind enough not to name her. We knew change was urgent. As we all understood, when Democratic leaders fail to lead, it falls to us to knock on doors, make phone calls, and take action, as Michelle Obama reminds us to do something. We must hold our elected officials accountable and lift up new leaders who reflect our values. I know many of you, like me, are hungry for principled and courageous fighters. Rodney Sadler is exactly that, a leader grounded in compassion, justice, inclusion, and decency. He knows that hope and love will always triumph over hate. After that incident, I spoke with Chair Knott about what could be done. In that conversation, I said I would reach out to Rodney. Little did I know, he didn't just know somebody that lived in House District 106, but he lived in House District 106. We are honored, energized, and determined to do everything in our power to elect Reverend Rodney Sadler as the next Democratic representative from District 106. He's running because he understands the struggles working families in Mecklenburg County face, skyrocketing cost of living and wages that remain too low. He was also deeply disappointed in the current representative who not only voted to overturn Governor Stein's veto, but justified it with remarks that all cultures are not equal. Words echoing supremacist extremists whose policies Rodney himself has been arrested opposing. In this climate of hate and division, Rodney will be the leader who unites us for a better North Carolina for all. But none of this will happen without us. I ask each of you to make Rodney's race your race, by volunteering, by organizing, and by financially supporting him. Because together we can and must win this race, sending a clear message to Democrats across our state and inspiring new leaders who step forward. We will fight for you and we will win. Wake County, could y'all jump up on your feet and give a Wake Dems welcome to our new friend, Reverend Dr. Rodney Sadler.
Good evening. How are y'all doing tonight? Thank you so much for that warm welcome, and it's wonderful to be here. Wesley, thank you so much for allowing me to be here tonight. It's wonderful to get to hear my friend Jeff Jackson speak, and kind of motivational, isn't it? Yes. Amen. You know, I'm running for House District 106, but this is not what I wanted to do 2-3 months ago. I have to tell you, I was utterly disturbed the first time I heard what Carla Cunningham had to say. It broke my heart because it suggested that all of us are not equal as human beings. It suggested that some of us are better and some of us are more worthy. But I said at that point in time, I will do whatever I can to join with the people of North Carolina to put someone in that office, whoever it might be, that would represent each and every one of us equally. Amen? I never wanted to be in the General Assembly. Want to know why? Because the first time I walked into that building, arm in arm with 29 other people, we kneeled and prayed on the floor of the General Assembly building, and guess what happened?
Arrested.
We got arrested. I still remember the feeling of those handcuffs going on my arms. I still remember the feeling of being dragged out of that building. We were fighting that day that every North Carolina child would have an equal quality education. We were fighting that day to make sure that the Medicaid expansion portion of the Affordable Care Act would be available for everyone that needed it. 650,000 North Carolinians. We were fighting for fairness and equity and justice against an extremist General Assembly. And for that, we got arrested. You know, I've been looking at what's going on in our world right now, and I have to tell you, I'm frustrated. Want to know why? I'm frustrated because I see what's going on in Washington, D.C., and the hatred and the xenophobia that seem to be coming out everywhere. The idea that some of us are worthy to be Americans and others of us not so worthy. The idea that some of us are entitled to the benefits of American privilege and none of us, others of us, just aren't worthy of that. I look at these policies and I say, my boss told me something different. My boss a long time ago said, the only things you have to worry about in this world are loving God and loving neighbors and loving strangers. If we could do those three things, we'd have a much better world. Amen?
Amen.
Well, I stand here today to say I want to stand for love in action in the General Assembly building. Amen?
Amen.
And I know some of you are thinking, that sounds silly, Reverend. What are you talking about? That's warm and fuzzy, and that's not going to work. Cornel West said that justice is what love looks like in public. So what I want to make sure is that we do things that look like love. You know what I mean by that? I think love looks like everybody having the ability to live in affordable housing. I think love looks like making sure that each and every child in the state of North Carolina gets an equal quality education in a safe gun-free school. Can somebody say Leandro? I want to make sure that every North Carolinian that might find themselves sick at some point in time has access to affordable care. I'd love to see a single payer system in the state, if you know what I mean. I'd love to make sure that we protect the environment in which we live. All of our wonderful parks and all the places that represent God's cathedral in nature. I want to make sure that every North Carolinian has a right to an affordable wage, a living wage, and so that people aren't trying to subsist on far too little for far too long. These are the reasons that I'm running. I'm running to bring love back into our public arena. I'm running to make sure that the people are lifted up again. I want to make sure that we, the people, are the center of all that we do as North Carolinians. All I want to ask you is, are we running together? Will we work together? Will we work to change not just Mecklenburg County 106, but all of the General Assembly and all of North Carolina, so that all of God's children made in God's image will be able to thrive in our state?
Yes.
Join with me and let's change the great state of North Carolina. Amen? Amen. Amen.
Reverend Dr. Rodney Sadler, y'all. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for joining us for our 2025 family reunion. Next year, I can think of a very special guest that I would like to join us here, and I would like to fill this entire venue. So y'all are gonna help us make that happen, right? Thank you for believing in what we're doing. Thank you for showing up. Thank you so much for donating, including to our Face Accountability for Override Fund. I had so much fun with y'all. Thank you for joining. If you are a sponsor, area coordinator, or are on our executive council, meet me at this tent over here so that we can walk backstage. Everyone else, thank you for joining us.